Welcome to Bible/Chat. We're chatting about psychology
and
trying to just poke the bear here. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it's very controversial.
We're going to get something controversial, and then we're going to stick a stick at it. So
We'll try. Try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We like to be incendiary, right?
Well, I think in this case, it's soul care, so there's a lot at stake.
Oh, yeah,
It's
totally.
not just like, how should we order the order of worship?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Which also could be controversial.
Which can also be controversial and can have a lot at stake, but I think like this,
Not
in
to
this
this
case,
degree.
it's so extreme.
I think so.
What you were saying last video, and I think is very important to acknowledge and just address, is just that the two worldviews are so different. But we live in an age now where the church has just imbibed psychology.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even like, we were just talking about that podcast, and we were listening to another podcast, and they were saying they all get therapy. All the people are on it, and they're conservative Christians. And everyone should get psychologists.
You're not talking about biblical counseling therapy.
No.
Yeah.
Like psychologists, like secular psychologists or integrationist psychologists.
Yeah, Christian therapists. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's very...
I think that's
everywhere.
the norm,
Yeah.
actually. Because if you look for counseling programs that are biblical counseling,
Yeah.
I can think of maybe 3 off the top of my head.
And that's it. Yeah.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because it's so observationally based, it seems very wise. So you look at it and you're like, oh, look, I mean, they're observing things that are true, and they seem to match with my felt reality.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so, and because it's so observational, they're like, oh, they're telling me what I'm thinking.
Right.
This must be right.
Right.
But then the solution is not there.
That's
it's like
true.
diagnostic without help.
Ooh, yeah, I think that's actually very helpful. Yeah. I think, I mean, a trained psychologist, integrationist, or secular, of course, I mean, as human beings, number one, they have just
cognitive abilities.
Yeah. But as trained human beings, they might
exactly.
have more.
Yeah, exactly.
But they can see things, and they're trained to, and they have experience in that. Yeah. But again, like you're saying, bless you.
Excuse me.
Like divorced from real solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they don't understand the real problem.
Yeah, exactly.
The real problem is not the family. The real problem is not your past.
Yep.
Those are what I think biblical counseling would say is those are influential. And I think we don't want to caricaturize either side.
Yeah, totally.
But from one person who went to one school who took counseling classes there from the other point of view, they said that this is a very prominent school, by the way. Okay, very prominent Christian school.
Yeah.
They said that when they got to biblical counseling, it was a 1-page thing and dismissed and moved on.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So which makes sense because they teach from that other perspective.
Right.
Totally. So I know we could do that too. However, but we want to really understand.
Yeah.
What integrationism is founded on, what it's doing, what it's seeking, et cetera, right?
Yeah, totally.
And critique it as need be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that kind of leads to the next question, I think, when it comes to this topic. So is there usefulness in secular psychological data?
Yeah. I think Jay Adams gives 3 reasons why. He says something. I'm not gonna forget one of the 3 reasons.
Yeah.
One he says is it's funny because he could pit psychologists against psychologists. Because they would have different
perspectives.
Very different perspectives.
Totally.
You take a Freud and a Skinner, and they have different perspectives on things. Behaviorists versus it's your id. And repression.
Absolutely.
And Skinner doesn't use that language.
Yeah.
It's we got to change your environment.
And
just do the right behavior.
Yeah.
Get the right incentives, and over time your guilt will go away. You'll be fine.
Yeah. You'll feel better.
And it's So they even fight against each other. Yeah. So you can use that. And he says,
what about Bob?
That is actually talk therapy right there.
It's an amazing movie.
And then the second one out of 3 is that I'm totally blanking. Oh, observational, what we said last time. It has illustrative purposes. Yeah. It's like when you read a novel and it shows the breakdown of the family because the dad, was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Horrible dad.
Dads are important. Family is important. Nuclear family. You read a good novel, movie, watch a TV show, it'll show you worldview. Yeah. And it'll show you also consequences too. Yeah. Going against God's worldview.
Totally.
And things like that. So, and then I forgot the third one.
That's okay.
There was a third perspective. But you can use things for illustrative, observational purposes, but you wouldn't use the science. Yeah. You wouldn't use the actual methodology. Yeah. And certainly not how they define the problem and man's responsibility.
Yeah, for sure.
So the treatment methodology, the source of the problem or what the problem actually is, man's responsibility, actually who man is in that system. So you wouldn't use any of the 5 or 6 major hooks on which
major
they hang.
tenets of psychology. Yeah.
So that it becomes like the use becomes very limited, I would say.
Yeah, gotcha.
Ultimately.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if you
and this is going to get us into trouble. But it's all right.
It is.
I'm sorry, but I am getting a degree in biblical counseling.
Yeah, well,
with zero integrationism built into it.
I know.
Very aggressively, in a good way, not in a hostile way.
I think when you actually, I mean, I would say I haven't read a ton of true secular psychology, but what I have read, I mean, it is the problem really is what you talked about in the last video, which is the foundational stuff. And once that's there, then where you go with it is going to be, it's just going to be flawed ultimately.
Exactly.
So what if you, I mean, this is where it's a little bit tricky. What if someone said to you, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm for biblical counseling, I get that, but I also feel like I need another source of data or another set of eyes that come from that secular perspective, because they might have thoughts or insights that are going to help me. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I would say, okay, it's not like getting a second opinion on your heart.
Right.
Like your actual heart, sorry.
Yeah.
Not the inner. I should use different language. Second opinion on
your liver cancer.
Exactly. Yeah, like that's like, of course, or whatever issue you might have. Like I'm having trouble with this or that. Okay, get a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Because it's organic.
Yeah.
This is where it gets dicey, to me at least, because it's not proven to be organic.
Totally.
I'm not saying all quote unquote mental health disorders or diseases are not diseases.
Yeah.
That I don't have the expertise to say that.
Yeah, totally.
And I think people in biblical counseling, they don't say that. They don't go like it's all fake.
Yeah, of course.
So
because we do know there are some things that are just clearly organic, even though they can't be necessarily tested for.
Exactly. Yeah, like the brain can have malfunctions.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's an organ.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't know. I don't have the full expertise to say that, and I don't know if anyone actually has ultimate expertise on the brain areas.
Yeah.
It's still a growing science.
Yeah, totally.
So I'd say, get a second opinion. That's fine with those things. But here, is it sin to go see that person and see what they say? No, it's not.
Yeah.
Fine. Go ahead and come back and report to me everything that they said.
What's been told. What's been said.
And I will be able to, I think, and they will be able to, with Bible in hand.
Yeah. We
can start picking it apart.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Did they talk about what the problem is? Did they talk about solutions? Did they, I'm talking about a Christian integrationist psychologist.
Totally, yeah.
Secular psychology will not give you anything supernatural or spiritual.
Yeah, there's nothing, yeah.
Totally. So I'd say that's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Sure, you can go, but just know what you're heading into.
Yeah.
Come back and report to me.
Yeah, totally.
But I'd be more interested in what the integrationist says.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would say you don't need another perspective.
Yeah.
This is going to sound simplistic. It's going to sound like, man, you're just bottom lining everything, I would say, do we believe in the sufficiency of this?
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah. That's where integrationism and biblical counseling divide.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when it gets down to it, it's like, this is sufficient for spiritual matters only. But when you get into the body and brain, then psychology, science, medical science.
Yeah.
And I would say, because it's trespassing, or it's going into the territory of the heart, the inner man. Yeah. No, it's not the realm of medical science. Now you're in this.
Yeah. It's really interesting that the medicalization of sin patterns and medicalization
calling
of them diseases then allows for that sort of transition to be very smooth. We would never encourage someone, we're not Christian scientists, we would never encourage someone to say oh, you should stay away from medical care. Of course.
No.
Any kind of
we've already talked about that actually.
Exactly. We want to push people toward medical care. Totally. But then with this, because it's become that, it sort of has been brought into the medical field, and not sort of completely has been brought into the medical field. Then it becomes a medical issue.
It does when they label bad behavior as you're a victim of fill in the blank, whatever it is. Society, parents, past, religion,
disorder.
Whatever it is, right? And everything becomes a disorder. Yeah. When you put disorder or disease on it, it has a powerful effect. Language is very powerful.
Yeah.
People get that disorder, they put it on their child or themselves or their mom, and they're like, she is not sinning.
Yeah.
She can't kind of help it.
Yeah.
It's bad, but here's the undergirding issue.
Yeah, she has a disorder.
A medical, organic issue.
Yeah.
But the question is it actually medical? Is it actually organic?
Yeah.
Even when some secular psychiatrists would have problems with that
totally.
those words being applied to all sorts of things, because they know that breeds a victim mentality, and you don't take responsibility for your actions.
Exactly.
And your thoughts.
So even among secular psychologists,
there's some rub there.
There's tension in how they identify disorders, what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was even thinking about this, like even like the whole gender dysphoria thing, and then now it's become it's like psychologically encouraged. Where before it was considered a disorder. And so you have like a massive transition, just that...
Not based on science, by the way.
There's zero scientific...
It's based on culture.
Purely response to culture. Yeah, the culture's moving a certain way, so psychologists are like, oh yeah, okay, we can do that too.
We'll flex.
You know? Yeah, it's more chasing the culture than it is actually like identifying it.
Yeah, re-identifying gender.
Yeah.
Based on medical... Is there new medical science that tells me that gender... No, there's no new studies on... There's no empirically verifiable studies on transgenderism or gender dysphoria that tells us, oh, we should encourage it, actually. It's a healthy thing.
Yeah. No, it's purely just based on that.
Yeah, and I like to go back to that original question to tie it with that. Like, yeah, I'd say you can go.
Yeah.
You know, but just know, like, if they don't talk about sin, Christ, and the Bible, you're not going to change.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Some people will say, oh, but it's like kind of helped.
Yeah, it helped me. Yeah.
And I said, if you talk out any problem with anybody, it'll help.
Yeah, totally, of course.
Know? And sometimes medications could work for some people.
Yeah.
You know, some people are in like severe depression. It stabilizes them.
Hold on, because we're going to do one more video
on medication. Yeah. But anyway, it can be. But I don't, I'm not saying that's a sin. That's the issue right now is not like, are you sinning?
Yeah,
the issue is we want to help you. Yeah. Just to understand the bigger issues at play.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I'd say you can go, but just know if they don't go to this, then
it's probably not going to be helpful.
Like,
not ultimately helpful.
Right. When anything competes with the Bible, I would say that like we got a problem.
Yeah. And if someone came to you and said, that's such an archaic position. Like you just don't understand how complex the mind is, how complex my emotions are.
Of course.
Why are you so archaic? What would your answer be?
I would say, good.
Wow. Wow.
I'm a very gentle counselor.
Yeah, exactly.
Gentle and lowly.
Yeah, exactly.
No plug over the
I carry a battle axe. No.
I swing it loud. No, I would say, of course I don't understand all the complexities of the mind and your problems. I want to try to, number one. Number two, I would say, this does.
Yeah.
The Bible, if you actually look at it, is one of the most, and not one of the most, that's silly. It is the most profound, insightful, complex, deepest, richest source on human psychology in the entire universe.
Yeah, totally.
Because God breathed it out.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you go to James 4:1-3, and it talks about why you get angry and why there's fights. It talks about the pleasures that wage war in your soul. Like, that's, Freud said that.
Yeah.
Actually, James said that.
Actually, James said it, and he said it more clearly, and he said it in 3 verses, and not
10,000 words.
Exactly. Tomes of papers. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, think about all that Paul says about the motives and drives of the human heart, the epithemias of the heart.
Totally.
Think about how he talks about those things with
For those of you who don't speak Greek, that's the word lust.
Lust or desire, sorry. Think about how he talks about them. Think about how he talks about, like, overcoming them. Yeah. Think about how he talks about even like his pre-conversion story in Romans 7.
Yeah, totally.
Think about how he talks about the psychology of them.
His own mind. It's crazy.
I mean, it's just so profound. And even like in 2 Corinthians 12, how he talks about why God would have to give him a thorn in the flesh. Yeah. Just all that psychology.
And what's going on inside of him.
The real psychology.
Yeah. Like the real things, the real motives that are happening in his heart that God wants to protect him from. Yeah, it's really remarkable.
The Bible is all about motives.
Yeah.
It's all about desires and complexities of the human heart.
It eliminates externals, in one sense. It eliminates the cultural externals and deals only with the heart.
Transcends straight there.
Yeah, exactly. Which means it does transcend all cultural norms. It speaks against culture, sometimes with culture, but it always speaks.
Yep, always speaks with authority and truthfulness. And when you read it as a believer and your eyes are lit up, you're like, oh, wow. This is speaking to my soul. Yeah. Or that person's soul who needs help. And you're like, whatever problem it is. Yeah. They're struggling with depression and fear, to talk about 2 of the biggest problems we struggle with.
Totally, yeah.
It has so much to say and not simplistic. Not like, totally. You're afraid, stop being afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
It doesn't do that. It talks about like Psalm 42, 43, how it talks about being sad. Yeah. It does not just say, stop being sad, the end. The psychology and the solutions behind that are just amazing. Yeah. But I think what happened is over time, because the mental health area got taken by liberal Christianity, liberal progress, and by secular community, we forgot this. Yeah, yeah. And this became archaic.
Yeah.
And sufficiency of Scripture and inspiration and inerrancy are like, oh man, who believes in that anymore?
Yeah.
But no, like that's what
That's
the
really
Bible
true.
says.
Yeah.
Like our eternity is staked on those kind of doctrines.
Yeah, totally.
So if you want to really help yourself or help someone else, like let's learn to read this better and deeper.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's actually like a lack of deep reading of the text that's caused it.
Right.
We just want quick fixes.
Exactly.
And so instead of going to the text and saying, show me what's going on inside of me, we say, it's not working. Let me find something else. Because these guys will do the chewing for me. They'll spoon feed me something that seems to do something.
Yeah, and then maybe it feels like a quicker fix because it's a med.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and so it's like, again, we want to be careful about, labeling people who choose to go that route. However, like get back down to brass tacks here.
Totally, yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
What was this for? What did God give this to us? Why? Like, just for history?
Yeah.
Just for, like, a doctrinal manual? Like, this is for our souls.
Yeah, totally.
Like, life-changing. So, I'd say if that's really true, then we got to just keep excavating.
Yeah,
and waiting on the Lord to teach us.
Yeah.
And illumine our minds through the Spirit and change us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it takes time.
There's a whole host of things that come
Obviously,
out of that.
yeah.
And I have lots more questions for you, but we can talk on the next video.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thanks so much for this. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
I think these are good conversations to have, and hopefully, it can be offensive, but I
know.
hope people will hear this with a tender heart and say, well, maybe this is true. Maybe I have put too much stake in things that are not necessarily built on a foundation that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Matthew 7. Build your house upon the rock. Right?
I know. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, good. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, you can always email us at info@faithbibleoc.org.